big show of solidarity in Europe amid increasing signs that the US president is tilting towards Russia in his efforts to end the war. Now, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is currently in London today, meeting with his European counterparts, the British, French and Germans as well, and will also head to Brussels to meet NATO and EU leaders. And this after President Donald Trump said Mr. Zelensky hasn't read the US peace plan.
So we've been speaking to President Putin, and we've been speaking to Ukrainian leaders, including Zelensky, President Zelensky. And I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed that President Zelensky hasn't yet read the proposal. That was as of a few hours ago. His people love it, but he hasn't.
Right, those comments follow weekend talks in Florida between US and Ukrainian officials with little progress reported, and the unveiling of President Trump's new security strategy critical of Europe, which the Kremlin praised. We've got Clay Sebastian standing by for us live at Downing Street. Clay, good to see you. What have we heard so far in terms of these meetings? And importantly, quite a show of solidarity by the Europeans after those talks in Miami.
Yeah, Eleni, I think that is, at least half of the point here. We saw a lot of sort of warm hugs as they walked into 10 Downing Street. Behind me, the President Zelensky, in particular, receiving a very warm welcome from the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Obviously, the Christmas tree creating a festive mood. But I have to say that does not seem to have been replicated in the room. The press were allowed in very briefly as the four leaders sort of sat in a row and gave brief opening statements. And I think a couple of them at least let slip a pretty bleak mood. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying, look, we stand with Ukraine in the pursuit of a just and lasting settlement if we get that far, which I think is a tone that we haven't really heard from him before. And then Chancellor Merz of Germany came out perhaps even stronger, saying that he was skeptical of some of the details coming out in documents from the US side. So I think that sort of let slip a very tense mood, a very nervous mood. Europe, of course, has been sidelined from these talks over the last 2.5 weeks that have involved on one track the US and Ukraine, and on the other track the US and Russia. So the point, I think, of today is that the Ukrainian team is going to brief the Europeans on what's happened so far from their perspective. We did see Rustem Umerov, the lead negotiator on the Ukrainian side, walk in behind President Zelensky. So they are going to get essentially the finer details of what's been discussed so far. Concretely, is anything going to come out of today? It's not clear at this point. Obviously, the Europeans are being expected by the US to stump up security guarantees for any post-war settlement. There's a big debate raging in Europe now about how to fund Ukraine through next year, especially when it comes to those frozen Russian assets, most of which are parked in Europe. So those are concrete details that could come up. But overall, I think this is a chance for Europe to show its support, to try to strengthen Ukraine as it's getting pressure not only from Russia, of course, but from the US president, as you showed there, and to try and show its solidarity, as well as, of course, to get the update on what's happened in those talks. Eleni.
All right, Clay Sebastian, thank you so much for that update. Now another story we're following.
CNN's Elena Treen live at the White House for us this morning with the very latest. What's going to happen now today?
Well, look, I think the president and this administration are definitely keeping a close eye on these meetings that Zelensky is having in London, as you mentioned, with the leaders of France, Germany, and Britain. It really is a show of solidarity, as we're hearing from the U.S. and specifically from the president himself, kind of casting some skepticism over where things stand in this negotiation process on talks between Russia and Ukraine to try and end this war. I want you to listen to what President Trump told reporters yesterday, kind of raising criticism and pressure on Zelensky around this plan. Listen.
I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed that President Zelensky hasn't yet read the proposal. That was as of a few hours ago. His people love it, but he hasn't. Russia's fine with it. Russia, I guess, would rather have the whole country when you think of it. But Russia is, I believe, fine with it, but I'm not sure that Zelensky's fine with it. His people love it, but he hasn't read it.
Now, Kate, for those who have maybe not been following these talks as closely as I have, I mean, this is like whiplash. You know, at one moment you hear President Trump praising Zelensky, seeming to favor the Ukrainian position as he approaches talks. In another breath, though, he'll discuss Russian President Vladimir Putin more warmly. And this is kind of where we are now. It's a very hot and cold posture that he has been taking. Part of that, from my conversations with White House officials, is the president trying to ramp up pressure on the sides that he believes kind of needs goading into this deal. But all of this comes, I think the important context of this is, of course, where the talks stand now. There were talks in Miami on Thursday between the president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, as well as his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, meeting with Ukrainian officials. They met for hours, Kate, and really at that moment is when we saw talks really begin to stall. And that's over a number of things, including Ukraine, this idea of Ukraine surrendering key territories in the Donbas region to Russia, this idea of security guarantees, this idea of Ukraine potentially committing to not joining NATO in the future. All of those are the remaining sticking points that we are continuing to watch. That's part of why we're hearing the president kind of weigh in with some criticism now. We'll see where it all leads. Kate?
Yeah, or doesn't, because it seems that it's definitely seems to
true.
not be moving in the moment, but critical day nonetheless. It's great to see you, Elena. Thank you. Sarah.
All right, to discuss many different things, including Ukraine, Democratic Congressman from Texas, Lloyd Doggett, is joining me now. He's a member of the House Budget and Ways and Means Committees. Thank you for being here this morning to discuss all these things. I know you just heard some of our reporting from Elena Petrine, the president trying to get a peace deal, of course, with Ukraine, but he's lashing out at Ukrainian President Zelensky, saying he hasn't read the deal yet. Meantime, his son Donald Trump Jr. said this about Ukraine, and I want you to take a listen.
Is your hunch that President Trump is going to walk away?
I think he may. What's good about my father and what's unique about my father is you don't know what he's going to do.
Let me ask you about that. Is it good that you don't know what he's going to do, and you heard Don Jr. say that he might walk away? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's certainly true that you never know what Donald Trump will do next. That's creating great uncertainty for so many American businesses and families struggling with the affordability crisis. But as to Ukraine, President Trump's position has really been pretty constant. Whatever Vladimir Putin wants, he wants to provide to him. And there are new reports out that the principal motivation is that Trump and some of his family and friends see great profit potential. They're interested in how much of a buck they can make, not how many lives can be saved in Ukraine. I hope the Europeans will be able to step in and provide more of the support that Donald Trump is denying Ukraine. The performance that Trump had earlier in the year with Zelensky in the White House is one of the most disgraceful events that I've seen in American history. We need to stand by those who are fighting for freedom, those that are losing civilian lives every day from Putin's war crimes, and Trump's approach is absolutely outrageous.
I do want to ask you just to follow up on this, because about a couple of days after Donald Trump was reelected as president, his son put this meme out, and it was directed at Zelensky, and it said, 38 days from losing your allowance. If we can show that, I don't know if people remember that. Do you actually think that Trump will walk away from helping Ukraine? And if so, do you think there's any chance that Congress will try to intervene?
Well, sadly, this Congress is totally a pawn of Donald Trump. They can't seem to stand up to Donald Trump on anything, with the possible exception of the handful that stood up on the Epstein files, and a couple that are questioning this outrageous conduct that he's been involved in murdering survivors in the Caribbean with his purported drug war. At the same time, he pardons someone who was convicted of getting drugs in the United States. I think that Donald Trump is determined to help Putin. If he walks away, it won't be much different than what he's done to date, which is to walk away from doing anything to help Ukraine, not sending any American dollars there, simply being willing to provide weapons for Europeans to buy to provide to the Ukrainians. There is valuable intelligence that we provide Ukraine, and his walking away, if it means cutting off intelligence and giving them less ability to protect themselves from these attacks by Putin on civilians, that would be harmful.
Congressman Lloyd Doggett, thank you. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.